Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just before we go into a conversation on what you're looking for in terms of content creation, the money you've got to spend on content, global content, can you tell us a little bit about Keshet's business in India and globally, and just give us a kind of paint a broad picture of what you do?
So Keshet is a global media group. The genesis of Keshet was an Israeli network, which was founded 25 years ago, and is still the leading network.
A linear television network.
Good old linear, with advertisement and news and all those good old elements. Obviously, realizing that it's a old business, 10 years ago we started selling shows, and at some point came Homeland, a small show that gave us a big momentum. And
I think we're going to the Prisoners of War, which obviously was made in India.
POW, which had an amazing version on Star last year that made us very proud. And we set up Keshet International, KI, 6 years ago, in a view to create a vertical studio that would pretty much follow the steps of giants like Endemol, Shine, Fremantle, but in a more, I would say, lean, mean, and agile approach, and driven by IP, modern production. And in 6-7 years, we became, I think, the quickest growing company in that space. And nowadays, we operate in almost every country. I think there's a Keshet show I would say, between the shows we produce and co-produce. I mean, I would say that the Keshet banner is in every country on the planet, and that's great. Obviously, like every vertical super indie, we pretty much do everything. We control all the value chain from devising, developing, producing, distributing, and now also deficit. Like American studios or like ITV, we have the luxury of having our own channel, which allows us to commission our own shows and bring them to other countries, not just as paper format, but also as something that was produced and proven. Together with all those elements, we are definitely heading to a great 2019.
Okay. And following on from that, you've just set up last year a content fund with $63 million. And you're on
the first one was so accurate. Well done, Janine. I've had everything.
Other people will call me anal. 63 million. Yeah. I know that.
Pure journalism. Yeah.
So you've got $63 million. You've commissioned one series out of the UK, co-production out of the UK, another one out of Australia. You've obviously got the POW experience in India, the Prisoners of War. Where does India fit into this global creation pipeline that you're building with the $63 million fund?
Fitting big time, if you ask me. We see India as a major market. We see India together with the UK, US, Germany, Latin America as a key market for us. We're lucky enough to have a great success in the last couple of years, and thanks to partners like Viacom Polos and Star, we made some pretty big shows in India. Rising Star on Polo is doing amazing numbers, and POW on Star, we can't really count the awards that Star us got for that. So we see India as a great market. We see India as a market that not only buy but also create. For us, relations with every country is two-way street. So obviously, I want to bring shows to India, but also I want to bring shows from India to other markets. And India is definitely one of the more developed countries in terms of creation of movies and television. The legacy of Bollywood is obviously legendary, and I have to say that I'm meeting amazing writers, directors, and we see India as a place where you can actually create shows and sell elsewhere. The fund is obviously driven by numbers, and the decision to fund or to opt into a project is based on projections. I mean, it won't be a secret saying that American shows travel better than anything else, and it won't be shocking to say that also British shows have a pretty global prospect. But the good news, especially to India, which has such a developed production marketplace, the appetite for other languages is only growing. We only launched a few days ago an amazing show on Netflix called When Heroes Fly. So I mean, you're invited to watch, and you can share with your experience.
It's binge-worthy.
Yeah. Good-looking Israeli soldiers go to Colombia to rescue.
I'm so typecast. Is that what you're saying?
To rescue a beautiful woman. I mean, it can't go wrong, obviously. And I mean, well done Netflix for promoting and pushing the show, just like any other American or British show. I think Netflix and obviously the other OTT follow them has not only opened the markets for foreign shows. They actually created, an amazing platform for foreign shows, and we see, shows like Our Heroes Fly, obviously the Israeli Fauda. Those shows get actually big numbers on OTT. And it seems like it's okay to speak Hebrew, and even though there's an option to watch the dub version, we know that many viewers prefer the original. So there's a market also for foreign language, and I definitely see the option of selling Indian shows outside of India. So for a good concept, and a good package, and global prospect, we would love also to visit in India. Thank you.
I know that you've been watching the India market for quite a long time. Do you think that this Sacred Games, Mirzapur, do you think the skills that are being developed in the production industry in creating those kind of global titles is good for companies like yours, is good for production houses in India to take their programming abroad? Because obviously I think that's the holy grail, is to have a global
the Indian market, is more developed than most markets when it comes to production. I grew up.
But in terms of storytelling, I mean, to go from the 250 episode soap opera with, as we heard in the previous session, 10 minutes of story, to something like, say, When Heroes Fly or POW, where you have a set number of episodes, that's quite a big shift.
I know, but again, remember, there is Bollywood. And as opposed to many other markets that struggle to move from traditional daily so-called low-end soaps to big cinematic series, India has the talent. India has the legacy. India knows how to create great movies. And all those great shows, that we see on Netflix, Amazon, HBO, Showtime, I mean, those shows actually blur the line between movies and television. And for India, this transformation is actually easy because the talent exists. Therefore we see, I think we're going to see more and more movie makers, like the kid who made POW, opting into television and bringing great cinematic value to the small screen. That's the advantage that India has above many other markets. So US has Bollywood, UK obviously also has a legacy, but many markets struggle to do the shift. For India, it's just so natural.
And you obviously look at every single market in your role at Keshet, so you have a global view.
Yeah, we've we made our shows in almost every market, from the US to Sri Lanka. So we know the local industry, and in a way, I mean, we benefited from the Netflix phenomena even before we sold to Netflix, because what happened is that in every market, when Netflix, Amazon, and other premium platforms opted in, penetrated, the local broadcasters and cable channels had to up their game. It happened in every market. So that's why 2 years ago we've been called, to make shows for Televisa in Mexico. They wanted to do some high-end shows. So they took shows from us, and that's why Star came to us for POW. So we're known as a company with a great portfolio of high-end shows, and this move from daily telenovelas and soaps to high productions obviously make our catalog pretty sought after. So yes, I mean we've been following this transformation in many markets, and we saw how the local producers are moving from telenovelas to cinematic TV shows. I have to say, in India, it's just much more natural and quick, thanks to Bollywood.
If there was a checklist, and I'm not saying that there is, but if there was a checklist for a show that you might deficit fund in India, what would that checklist look like?
It has to be good, it has to be compelling, it has to travel, and obviously the package. I don't see any difference between an Indian show and an American show in terms of what makes it a success. Yes, I admit, American shows potentially can do better, but a great Indian show with a great package and a great director can definitely fly.
Does it have to have a director attached first?
We definitely, as a principle, whether it's India, UK, Australia, the package is essential. We know that. We as a production company, we don't really take anything to market without a package, and vice versa. I would only invest, when I know that there's enough creative elements to make it compelling. And when almost every Hollywood star is doing television, we just, saw the show with Richard Gere, amazingly. So I think the bar is really, really high, and it's also relevant for India. I know that in India, there's still, a big industry in Bollywood, and maybe as opposed to America, movie stars are more reluctant to move to television, but guess what? It's going to change.
Hopefully.
It has to change.
Yeah, it will. I think it will. So no checklist as such, other than certain elements of great storytelling.
Again, there is a checklist, but it's a pretty standard one. Give me a good story, give me a great creator, great package, great star, I'm in.
And beyond that, it's not like we're looking for murder mysteries or gritty crime.
Absolutely not.
So it could be comedy, it could be...
Yeah, you can't really quantify creativity.
And what kind of funding needs to be in place in order for you to come to the table?
Typically would like to co-invest with someone. Now it can be either a financier or a commissioner. So I can also opt into a show, without a commissioner, without a buyer, if there's another producer doing it with me. So typically, we would like to do it with someone. It's great, to have a commission. Obviously, it's easier when you have a stamp of a big platform, a big channel. But you know what? Nowadays, when there's so much demand for good shows, I'm happy to put deficit with the partner, even without the buyer. I think that, since the appetite is massive, I'm pretty confident that under the Keshet banner, we can sell everything if it's good.
How much content is in your library, in your catalog now?
Endless.
Endless, like thousands of hours. Like how many thousands?
More than that. Keshet is 25 years old, and I have 25 years of Keshet shows in my catalog. Beyond that, we own dozen companies in the UK, we own a company in Germany, we have two development hubs in the US, East Coast and West Coast. We have an acquisition team that sources material and buys books and formats and foreign shows. So altogether it's massive. We as a company, maybe that's something that I wouldn't say differentiates us, but it's definitely part of my DNA. We're driven by IP more than production. So if some other companies are driven by production and they're buying companies without IP, what we have is first and foremost tons of IP. So everything is driven by great storytelling, great IP, and that's why our business is first and foremost sell our shows. So in India, for instance, at some point we would like to get into production, same as we've done in other countries. It might take time, we have the patience. So at the moment we focus on just setting up our shows with great local partners.
Moving into or evolving into different kinds of content, you've just done a series for Snap, and you're incorporating the digital world and the short form in amongst your high-end drama and the premium stuff. What's that journey been like for you?
You know, for me, you know, content can be in any form or shape. You know, in the 80s when the cable started and MTV became a phenomenon, there was a song in the radio that the video called Kill the Radio Star. Remember that? You know?
Sadly, yeah.
I'm old enough to remember.
I'm old enough to remember. Thanks for saying that, Charlie.
So guess what? He never died, the radio star. He just never died. So the market is becoming more and more fragmented. And you know, I mean, cinema was invented in the end of the 19th century. And, you know, it still exists. So this year was the biggest year for Bollywood ever. So okay, you can claim that, you know, it's all about DC Comics and Marvel, but you can argue with the numbers. Hollywood made money in 2018 in more than any other year. Same for books. You know, I don't know if there was any year with so many bestsellers like 2018. You know, Michelle Obama is selling like J.K. Rowling's. And yes, so maybe you know there's less paper and more Kindles, but still people read more books than ever. So I think that, you know, people consume much more content, and I think there's new ways to consume content. And for us, Snap, you know, was so natural.
Tell us a little bit about the Snap show.
The show we made for Snapchat, you know, could have been sold also to Netflix or Amazon or HBO. It's a show we've developed based on the book that we acquired, Dead Girl Detective Agency. It's what we call young adults or millennials, which, you know, obviously became really sought after type of audience because they are the first to adopt every kind of new way to consume content. And again, the show was developed for television or for whoever wants it. We pitched it everywhere. Snapchat jumped on it. We made it for them. The only change is that they wanted us to create shorter episodes, which we loved, because...
so when you say shorter, how many minutes?
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
8 minutes, yeah.
And the original was 30 minutes.
You know, the show was designed to begin with for 20 minutes episodes, like many shows of that genre. But again, you know, I mean, for me, 8 minutes is completely sustainable. You know, I have a son, God bless him, he's 8. He never watched anything more than 10 minutes. So the current attention span is so short that I have no doubt that short form will become much more popular. And you know, we see initiative like QP from Jeff Katzenberg was launching the show from Netflix in a few months from now, and is making shows for $100 grand per minute. I think that all in all, you know, short form is here to stay, and short form will be pretty big with young generations, and obviously future generations. And again, I mean, we don't really distinguish TV from Snapchat from its own content. And as long as it's funny or moving or emotional, as long as I can engage, for me the platform is no meaning. And you know, we made last year so many shows. They not only would, you know, include us in the overachieving list, but you know, I think the Snapchat series was one of the most innovative ones, I invite all of you to watch it. We filmed it vertically, which is fascinating. You can actually squeeze more action to the frame. So many of the scenes are split screen. You watch it obviously like that on mobile, and even though it's 8 minutes, it feels like much more than that because there's so much action happening in one frame. I think it's the first vertical show ever that crossed 10 million unique viewers. I think it's for 2 weeks ago, and Ivan Shapiro spoke about it at the Times. Dead Girl had more than 13 million unique views, and I think in a way it's redefined the way to make shows for youngsters.
So that vertical format, it didn't start out as vertical. You adapted it to 8 minutes and to vertical. Did that mean you had, and I want to ask you a question about IP, but did that mean you had to go back to the drawing board on your concept?
Yes.
So, and that was after the Snap Commission?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So then what happens?
By the way, even if, when you sell a show, there's always a show for Netflix and a show for FX is different. So, by the time you develop it for a platform, there's always some adjustment. Obviously, with Netflix, it was more radical because they wanted not only more condensed episodes, but also vertical production form, which we love.
For Snap.
Yeah. So definitely we kept the same story, but we redesigned it for a vertical format.
What do you do with the IP? I mean, you said you're based on IP more than anything else. What do you do with the IP in the short form environment? How do you deal with that? Because and you know this already, a lot of creators have an issue with IP because they don't stand up for their own IP strongly enough against a broadcaster. They want their show to be made so badly that they give away too much IP. How do you approach this IP ownership?
That's my, that's my big secret, and no, I'm kidding.
Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Firstly, everything goes, and yes, you have to be flexible, absolutely. And I can think about two identical deals we've made in the last 2 years. Dealing with Netflix and Amazon is different than dealing with FX and Showtime, different than ABC and CBS. So in this market, especially nowadays, you must be very flexible. So yeah, so in some cases, in some cases, obviously we give all rights. In some cases, we return the IP. So it's really different. We have a big advantage because we do have a channel. So many of the shows we bring to market, we already have, which gives us obviously more holding on the format. So that's a big advantage, and that allows us to retain more IP than other typical producers. But yes, the market has changed, and we're definitely dealing with different business models. And we're trying to be innovative and flexible and just make the most of it. But there's no one mold.
Okay. So if there was a piece of advice you would give to creators in managing their own IP, what would it be?
Invest money.
Their own money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you believe in something, go to the bank, take money, invest money. The more you invest in your IP, the more you can own. By the way, if you ask me, in the future, we'll see more and more self-funded shows. And that's a different ballgame. If you can come to Netflix or Amazon or Star with a show that you already produced and you took all the risk and they only need to watch and acquire, it's a different ballgame. I think in that scenario, producers will be able to retain more IP. And I think we're doing it already, on some scale, self-funding shows. I keep hearing about producers doing it. I think in the future, it will be more and more accepted and popular. So, you have a piece of IP, you have faith, put your money, and just produce it. So that's a good way to retain IP. And again, if you believe in your IP, if you believe in your storytelling, if you're passionate, just go and break some savings and invest.
Or come to you and ask you for co-investment.
That's also an option.
We have another 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to use that to ask you, what do you see in 2019 as a big content trend? Tastes have diverged. There's a new taste for absolutely everything. There's an audience that can find there's content that can find an audience anywhere. What do you see as the big trend?
Firstly, India specifically is going through a great, revolution. We can see that. Women, LGBT, finally, getting the voice heard, and that's great. And I know my friends in India are so excited about this new era in this country. I've been coming here for decades. I love India. As you know, India is a happy place for Israelis. So we all come to India. It's mandatory. We have to. So I think that in the next few years, we'll see content responding to those, social trends. More women empowerment, more LGBTQ. We're going to see that in India. It's very natural. In every market, when those movements, started to sound their voice. So that's specific for India. In terms of trends, I just don't believe in trends. In general, you know, I mean, content is so local, and even though, you know, we tend to think that, you know, we live in a global world, it's actually the opposite. And it's sadly, you know, just see the opposite trend of you know, walls being built and you know, unions, you know, being torn apart, and you know, content is global, but taste is local. So if you want to be appealing for Indian audience or Mexican audience, as well as know the culture, understand the market, and even if you will make a show, you will have to adjust it to the local market. You know, Homeland was made in 4, 5, 6 countries. In every country, it was a different show. Same conflict, same kind of, you know, big idea, but, you know, completely different storylines. In Israel and India, it was a family drama. In the US, you know, there's espionage. So you must adjust the local markets, and if there are trends, they're local, not global. Because, you know, I mean, I always tell, 6 years ago, we did big marketing research about unscripted, okay? And we're looking for, okay, what's the next big trend? And it was obvious that if there's something the world doesn't need, it's a talent show. And we said, you know what, let's do it anyhow. And we did Rising Star. That, you know, became in 2013 the quickest selling format in history. In 1 year, we sold Rising Star to more than 25 countries. And again, you know, I mean, it was against any trend. So, you know, yeah, it's nice to know, you know, what's going on. But, you know, I think it's more important to understand social and geopolitical trends and just respond. And
to love your own story.
What's that?
Be passionate about your own story.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of, you know, genres, or in terms of specific types of shows, you know, if it's good, if it's authentic, you know, go for it.
Got it. And on that go for it note, I'll thank you very much, Alon, for joining us. And thanks everyone else. We'll talk more about this